I'm taking the most important and helpful books out of my religion and spirituality library to the studio. These are all things that you should consider getting for yourself if you're a book person, which, if this is in your feed, we both know you are. Hi, I'm Jeremy. I'm a deep skeptic, also a pastor, and I have a book problem. So I got a very cool but small bookshelf for the studio, and I need to get just this many books to take with me. So let's start with some books about the Bible. Here's a really great one. If you can only buy one book, this is the one that you buy. It's called A History of the Bible by John Barton. It is essential. Really, it gives you an overview of the academic consensus around the Bible from top to bottom, from beginning to end. It is the book I recommend all the time. Oh yeah, don't worry. You don't have to take notes or anything. I've got all of this list at a link where you find links, right? Get it? You know, the place that TikTok doesn't want me to say out loud. Okay, here's some more Bible ones. This is called Jesus Through Middle Eastern Eyes. It's by Kenneth Bailey. It's like cultural background stuff to the New Testament. And there is a companion book, another one that he did. Kenneth Bailey is brilliant. It's called Paul Through Middle Eastern Eyes. And it takes Middle Eastern culture, especially culture pieces in the first century, and it helps you understand the Bible. Another one like that, and it also does a lot of great academic breakdown of the structure of the text, is The Parables by Brad Young. Basically, anything by Brad Young, I love it. My Old Testament professor did a really great book just about Genesis, and really it's like the whole covenantal narrative, and it's really helpful. It's one fantastic way to look at the Old Testament. It's called The Epic of Eden. Yeah. She's great, Sandra Richter. And then a commentary that I like, just because it gives you all the fun, all kinds of fun Jewish information, is the Jewish New Testament commentary. It's really great. It's by a guy named David Stern. Okay, I just can't stop. I'm not sure if I'm going to bring all of these, but short stories by Jesus by Amy Jill Levine. It's brilliant. There's a book that everybody should read called Love Wins. This is not the book. This is the companion guide. I always am giving it away, and I realize I don't have a copy, so I'm about to order that. That's by a guy named Rob Bell. He also wrote a fantastic book called What is the Bible by Rob Bell. You should definitely be looking into that. And then a brilliant academic that is also on TikTok. You should follow him here. It's called How the Bible Actually Works by Pete Enns. Oh my gosh. Hey, look, I found it. Love wins. Seriously. Love wins. Okay, a next one is about how to talk and how to teach without like lecturing. It's brilliant and it's small. It's called To Know As We Are Known. It's by a guy named Parker Palmer. It's a brilliant book. Now this one is super nerdy, but if you were interested in this, it's really interesting. It's from the Loeb Classical Library. It's Josephus, Jewish Antiquities, book 18 and 19. Why do I have that specific volume? It's the two historical references to Jesus that it's interesting. You should read it. It's wonderful. And I also, here's a couple of other history books. I am in the Wesleyan tradition, and so I really love this book. It's called Taking Heaven by Storm by a guy named John Wigger, who was my Wesley history professor. And he also wrote another great book on a guy named Francis Asbury, who is really responsible for a lot of Christianity, a lot of people giving up their slaves, including George Washington freeing half of his slaves on his death. Anyway, really great book. American Saint is by that guy named John Wigger. I spent a lot of time in Alabama, and there is a history of racism in Alabama called in the church called When the Church Bell Rang Racist. It's fantastic. All leadership books are completely useless. All leadership books. Full stop. I really hate leadership books, except for this one. It's by a guy named Henry Nouwen. It's really tiny, and it's called In the Name of Jesus. And he talks about living in a large community and how that taught him how to be a leader. A really great book called The Universal Christ by Richard Rohr. My friend and fantastic writer whose writing has changed my life over and over. His name's Brian McLaren. This book, Faith After Doubt, is brilliant. And this Theology of Mission book that I think is really interesting read, it's called The Open Secret by Leslie Newbigin. And you know, this isn't particularly religious, but at this moment in time, it kind of feels apropos. It's called Common Sense to the Inhabitants of America by Thomas Paine. Okay, I think that poetry is spiritual no matter what. I've always got to have a couple of poetic texts to keep me grounded. So here's what I'm going to bring with me. This is Joy Harjo in Mad Love and War. It has got my absolute favorite poem of all time. It's called Eagle Poem. It's the one in the back. It's about prayer. It's fantastic. There's also another one of her books called She Had Some Horses, which is fantastic. Mary Oliver is a brilliant poet. This one is called Why I Wake Early by Mary Oliver. And then Maya Angelou is my all-time favorite, and this is her collected works. They're definitely going with me. By the way, if you hear clunks after this is literally me throwing them in the tub. Oh, wow, I almost forgot this one. This is a Bible one. Sorry about that. It's called The Hebrew Bible, a translation and commentary by Robert Alter. You can see it's massive, but every dollar of that is totally worth it. Okay, we've got to get a couple science books in there. This one is called The Awakened Brain by Lisa Miller. It's actually about spirituality and about how spiritual beliefs and practices have a positive impact on people's life. She did this work at Columbia and I believe Yale. It is fantastic, brilliant, peer-reviewed, all the things. You have to read that book. Another book is not particularly spiritual in one way. It's called A Briefer History of Time. It's an overview of the classic quantum physics and string theory information by Stephen Hawking. It's fantastic. I also love the Great Universe or something like that. I can't find it. I've got to order that again. Along those same lines, but more of a philosophical take, I like this because if you've thought about God and time a lot, this is part of a multiple views series by IVP. It's called Four Views, God and Time. It's fantastic. You know how some books just change everything, change your life all the way around? That's this one. Messy Spirituality by a guy named Mike Yaconelli. It's not super nerdy. It's just really helpful in helping you be okay with yourself. All right, I love mysticism, and there's a couple of mystical texts that I really like to take with me. There's called The Essential Writings of Christian Mysticism. It's a really great compendium of a lot of text. St. John of the Cross has one called The Dark Night of the Soul. And then there is a very classic mystical text called The Cloud of Unknowing. And I love that it talks about this like staircase where you're spiraling deeper inside of yourself and at the same time rising in this like heavenly realm is fantastic. Along the same lines, and again, this book I read all of the time. It's by a guy named Abraham Joshua Heschel, and it's a book that's about like chilling out, calming down. It talks about this idea called Sabbath from the Bible, taking a break, not defining yourself like a tool by how much you can create. It also says things like Sabbath is about collecting rather than dissipating time. It's brilliant. Here's a couple of meditation texts. There's called one called Emptiness by a guy named Guy Armstrong, and then one called The Experience of Samadhi by Richard Shankman. I like both of them. I lived in Silicon Valley for a while. I'm an Apple nerd. This is the original Apple logo. And there is one book that all the startups help, and anyone who's getting started in anything should look at. It's called The Lean Startup. It's the only one of those books that I would recommend. But there's an interesting book on innovation that a friend of mine wrote. It's called Innovating for Love by a woman named Kennedy. You also need Josephus, book 20. Okay, we're going to do this fast. All of my queer books are not here. They're going to be on the list. I lent them to a friend and they moved away, but this one right here is for queer teens who want to stay spiritual, maybe even Christian, Queerfully and Wonderfully Made. I love that book. A shout out to Pope Francis. In the afterlife, the name of God is mercy, and then a book that I'm always reading. Literally, I get to the end, I start back at the beginning. It's fantastic. It's called Bird by Anne Lamott. It's about writing, but it has all kinds of beautiful information in it. If you've ever heard the quote, we can be sure that we've made God in our own image. If God hates all the same people that we do, that's in there. It's fantastic. You should definitely read it. It's a long video. I'm sorry. That's it. That's the whole thing.